Hey, it's me, James, and in this video, we're going to be doing an Oracle Outlook reading for the week starting October the 21st, 2024. So stay tuned. Thanks so much for tuning in and joining me for this week's video reading. If this is your first time here, I'd like to say welcome, and if you're a returning viewer and visitor, I'd like to say welcome back. Okay, so I was giving it some thought for today's deck selection for this reading, and I've decided that I'm going to go with a deck that has been selling on my Make Playing Cards site as of late, and it is the Intuitive Cartomancy Deck. So I created this deck, it's almost a year ago, and I was inspired by a viewer who submitted a comment on another video. Over the past few years, I've been doing a series on playing cards, and it's called My Study and Practice of Cartomancy with Playing Cards. And in that particular video comment, person asked me about memorization when it comes to reading playing cards. And it got me thinking, because if you're working with playing cards, there is a great deal of memorization, or at least that's one approach you could take. But it got me thinking about, like, well, what about creating an intuitive method or a tool to read playing cards more intuitively? And that was inspired by this. So when I made it, it comes in a tin, and the cards are similar to Lenormand and Sibylla, if you're familiar with those traditions, because what I did was I created an image. So the image really is just one meaning out of a list of meanings for the card, but I went with the one that I thought would make a great image. And so here we have the Ten of Spades. Not the best card to pull out as an example, but we have the image here, and then there is a playing card insert. So this is the card Ten of Spades, and I went with an image. And so a person can work with this deck on an intuitive level. It doesn't require a whole lot of memorization if you just read the image, right? So you can kind of glean what the Ten of Spades could mean just by reading the image. So it becomes an oracle rather than a playing card deck. But if you are familiar with the meanings of the playing cards, and I should say I work with a particular system. So my system is actually a mashup of two teachers or mentors or predecessors, if you will. One is the late Dr. Leo Louis Martello, who wrote a book back in the day called It's Written in the Cards. And it's very hard to find. It is out of print, so you have to do your due diligence, and you may be able to find like a PDF copy online. The other one is the Card Reader's Handbook. I've talked about that at length in my playing card series. I love this book, but and it's by Regina Russell, I should say, and she writes similar meanings to the cards as Martello. So I found some agreement between the two, because one of the challenges I found when I was trying to find a system is that there's lots of different ways to read the cards and lots of different traditions or systems. So you kind of have to find the one that just resonates with you. But I was pleased to find that these two kind of agreed and commingled. So it's those two. And then I found a third gentleman. His name is Caphras, or J. David R. Curry. And he has also been inspired by the two people I mentioned. And so his style is similar to those, with the combination of his Italian grandmother who taught him how to read cards. So it's kind of a mashup of those. And then, of course, I've been reading cards for a long time, so I've kind of also developed my own meanings over time. And you will do that no matter what the system is that you read with. If you read with it long enough, you will find that you will use the traditional or set or core meanings as your foundation, and then you build on that with your own that come just from time and experience. Yeah? So, anyway, I'm so pleased with this. So, this is a recent seller. So just to give you some idea of what the cards look like. So this is the Ace of Hearts. Typically represents home and family, which is why there's a house on the card. Here's one of the jokers. This is the red joker. So just like I said, just to give you an idea, this is the King of Clubs. So I have a person sitting on stairs here. Any idea what this card is about? Business. So the idea about moving up the ladder or taking the steps to advance your career. Yeah. So those are just some examples. The reason why I'm not working with this particular deck is because I'm working with a variation that I created. So after I made the deck, I sometimes have these ideas like, oh, well, what if I did it this way? This was the same thing with this. So I'm going to be actually using what I call the Mitchell Cartomancy cards. They are similar to the Intuitive Cartomancy. The only change is that, here's like the Queen of Spades. I wanted the indices, that's the card title and emblem, usually like you find on the border or around the border of the card. I wanted it like that. I wanted it like a standard playing card with the image in the middle. So it took me a while to find a template that would allow me to do that. So the images are almost similar to the Intuitive Cartomancy deck. I just wanted it more like a playing card feel. So this is my personal copy, which is what I'm going to be working with. So having said that, I decided I'm going to do a line of 5. This is a mashup between two different systems that I use to read cards. One is the line of 5. If you're familiar with Lenormand, that's where the line of 5 title comes from. It's a line of 5 cards. And then during my angel card era, I studied with Charles Virtue. That is a person who is an angel teacher and an oracle card creator and reader. So I studied with him for a brief time, and I adopted his way of reading a line of 5 into a line of 5 cards. So that's the reading I'm going to be using. Here are the backs for the cards. So the Intuitive Cartomancy deck has red card backs, and my Mitchell Cartomancy cards has blue. So blue is one of my favorite colors, and I was sticking with the idea that playing cards are either come in with red backs or blue backs. Okay, so I have the cards in hand. I'm going to shuffle, and we're just going to take a look at the week ahead. I'm shuffling on camera so you can see me shuffle. You can see that. Before I put them on the table for an additional shuffle. Now you may be able to hear that they're being shuffled. You won't be able to see it. And I'm shuffling. When I do my table shuffle, I shuffle 5 times, as I've said in previous videos, and that is 1 for each element. So the first one was for earth. This is for air. Next one is for fire, water, and this last one is for ether or spirit. Alright, now that I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and cut the deck. And I usually cut away when I'm doing collective readings. Alright, now I'm going to fan out the cards. And I'm looking for 5 cards in the fan that just kind of get my attention or pop out to me. It's 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so I have the cards. Alright, so I have the 5 cards lined up. So first card out the gate, opening up the line, we have the 10 of clubs. So now, in the Lenormand tradition, this would be like the card that opens the line up when I use it in this context. I call it the origin card. So the origin card is the card that kind of sets the story or sets the tone for the reading. So this would be what's setting the tone for the week ahead. So the suit of clubs for me represent work and business. It also represents something of a public nature or social nature, things like that. So The 10 is a number of transition, so it usually represents something that's coming to an end and at the same time sets the stage for something to begin. So in this context, I'm going to read it two ways. So the first is, because I'm a business person, the 10 of clubs can represent business, that you're working on something, right? It could also mean that you're putting a lot of work into something, right? Because it also can represent not just work in the job or business sense, but work in that work and effort type sense, right? So for some people, if you are out in the working world, this card could simply mean that you are going to be faced with a lot of work, right? So if you work for the man, meaning like you work for somebody else, you're employed by a company, corporation, firm, something of that nature, then this card would just suggest maybe walking into the week ahead with a lot of work on your plate, right? Now, one industry that shows up in the 10 of clubs is retail. So if you happen to be a retail employee and I happen to have a retail job, this card, when it turns up, can represent like a lot of work within that particular industry, right? So, and I know, just personally speaking, that in my department right now, in my retail job, there is a lot of work to do because we are actually going through transition, right? The 10. So we get into a stage in my department where we have a whole lot of people coming in, and then slowly but surely we go through transition, meaning like a lot of people make their exit somehow, some way, right? So we are in that phase right now. And so when I go in, I have a lot of work to do just because of issues with employee retention, right? So that is one aspect of the card. If you are self-employed, because this is a great small business card, then it could suggest like you are putting a lot of work or effort into your small business. And I also have that, right? So card reading and card mentoring, how to read cards, are some of the services that I offer in my small business. So it could be that I get an uptick in business this week, right? Now the challenge with that is I have to kind of work that into my two jobs that I have out in the world, right? So I'm a busy guy, right? So this could just be like, you're just busy, right? So there is that. The other thing could be, if it's not job or business, like I said, then this could be like you're just putting a lot of work or effort into seeing something through, right? It's like it may take a lot of work or effort to complete something. Now remember, the 10 is about ending something, right? So it could just be a lot of work or effort into completing something, seeing something reach a stage of closure. Now the other aspect of this card is also about travel. So now it could be travel that's related or connected to business, or traveling over a body of water, right? So those are elements or aspects of the 10 of clubs. Okay, so now the next card in the line is, okay, so here we have the 6 of spades. So before I go into what the 6 of spades means, this is in the position of expectations. What could we expect, right? So now I will say, coming on the heels of the 10 of clubs, here we have a clubs and a card from the suit of spades. Now the way I read these cards is that in order, clubs represents work, and then the suit of spades represents like problems, challenges, obstacles, hurdles, things like that. So the two, just without, or just going with, I should say, the emblems, here we have working into a problem, right? So it may be that the origin or the situation is that there's a lot of work that needs to be done, or a lot of effort into a particular problem or challenge, okay? So now, 6 of spades in terms of its meanings. Now if you notice the image, here we have a man on the card who is pruning a tree, right? So one of the meanings, and this is more metaphorical, of this card is eliminating dead wood, right? So coming on the heels of the 10 of clubs, if we're putting a lot of work and effort into something, it's because there's a lot of dead wood, quote unquote, that needs to be removed. The suit of spades is actually the suit of elimination. So it could just be about, like, metaphorically, what needs cutting out of your life, right? So it could be like, with these two cards of messages, what are you willing to cut out? What are you willing to eliminate from your life? What and with the idea like it's no longer working, right? The idea about dead wood meaning it's not viable, right? You've gotten all that you can get out of it, so it's time for removal, right? So I would language it like that. Now, if we're talking about the work sense in the sense of job or business, then this card is about maybe experiencing challenges with responsibility. The 6 is a number of responsibility in the system that I use, right? So it's about responsibility and communication. So it could just be like if you are in the job and business aspect, that part of the reading resonates with you, then you may come up against people who are not taking responsibility for their roles or their work. In that setting or in that experience, right? It could also be that there's problems with communication in those areas, meaning like you have to work on how you explain to people what needs to get done and how it gets done. And of course, that's if you're in a position of leadership or management where that is an expectation on your side. Like you have to dictate to other people what their roles are and how their work is supposed to get done. But if not, if you're on a peer level, then it could just be a matter of there may be moments where you come up against people who are kind of avoiding responsibility for their work. And that could show up in a myriad of ways, right? Or that you're having issues communicating with your fellow co-workers, right? But I'm going to go back to my very first meaning of this card. It really is about putting work and effort into eliminating what's no longer working, what's no longer serving and supporting you in your life right now, right? Okay, so next is the third card, and here we have the 7 of Hearts. So now, when I'm reading the line of 5 in the way that I am, the third card is always like the central issue or the focus, okay? So with that in mind, here we have the 7 of Hearts, like I've already said. The suit of Hearts represents feelings, emotions, and our ability to relate to other people. And I find it very interesting that this would come on the heels of the card 6 of Spades, where I talked about the idea about difficulty communicating, right? So this may happen with relationships in particular, or that we get into our feelings regarding the lack of communication in a relationship or the difficulty and challenges of communication in a relationship, right? Again, now with the first card setting the tone, it could be, again, in the job sense, business sense, but it could also be I'm putting a lot of work and effort into this relationship and communication is a challenge. The reason why I'm saying that is because the 7 is a number of improvement, again, in the system that I work with, right? So here we have the idea of wanting something to feel better, right? If hearts are about feelings and 7 is about improvement, put the two together, it's about wanting something to feel better. I want to feel better about this, right? But it could also be working on improving an existing relationship. The reason why I'm going with that is because this is known as the second chance card. I'm giving something or someone another chance, right? And in the image you will see that there is a couple, 2 men, and one is embracing the other. And I went with this image because for me at the time I was working on this deck, it felt to me, looking at the image, like he was giving his partner another chance, right? They were giving their relationship another chance, right? So there is that. So this card is about second chances, second attempts. It's known as the again card, right? So whatever it is, we're experiencing it again. So there is that. And this card could be, you know, if I just go with the imagery, the idea of 2 men. So of course it could represent couples, relationships, same-sex couples, excuse me, in particular. Or it could just represent I'm embracing an idea, right? Symbolically, men represent ideas, our mind, conscious awareness, and women would represent our feelings, our emotions, our intuitive nature, yeah, things like that. So having an image with 2 men, one embracing the other, means I'm open and receptive to embracing another idea or a different way of thinking regarding this situation or experience, yeah? And I like that coming on the heels of the Six of Spades, right? Where we're talking about eliminating dead wood, the process of cutting something out, right? That could be now, if we're talking about cutting something out and maybe somebody's giving some thought about a relationship that they've been putting a lot of work in, and maybe what's coming to me in the moment is that they've been feeling like they're the ones doing the work, all the work, and the other person is not, and you're thinking about cutting it out. This card would suggest on some level coming to a place maybe where you feel like you want to give the person another chance or another try. I'm hearing the song by Christine W., One More Try. It's one of her earlier songs, if you're familiar with the singer. Yeah, so I'm hearing in my head the idea of one more try. So somebody may actually be thinking about giving somebody a second chance. But the thing here is, the challenge here is that people have to be willing to communicate differently and be willing to take responsibility for their part in the relationship, right? So the other person doesn't feel like they're doing all the work, right? So there is that aspect of the Seven of Hearts. Now, the Seven of Hearts also is a very intuitive card, a very psychic card. So if you're into that kind of thing, if you're into your developing your intuitive nature, working with your psychic gifts or abilities, this is a great card. This would suggest paying attention to your dreams, right? Over the last couple of weeks, I used my Inner Wisdom Oracle for the readings, and that card is all about the things I've experienced in dream time and meditation. So this would be a nice follow-up to that kind of thinking, right? Paying attention to your dreams, exploring what happens during your meditations, right? Just those kinds of things. And just being led and guided by your intuition. Like, trust your feelings. Be willing to trust your feelings, right? So there's that. I'm holding up the card because I feel like there's something else I want to say, and I'm just waiting for that to come in. Oh, yes. So the other thing I wanted to say, if I go with just the emblems, so here we started off with the suit of clubs, work and effort, right? And I said that following that with the spades is about working into a problem, right? Then with the hearts following that, whatever the problem is, it will be easy to work out because the suit of hearts usually represents something that is easy in terms of a follow-up, right? So the problem that maybe the Six of Spades is presenting, potentially, are not that serious or that severe, because followed by a suit of hearts usually represents that the problem will be worked out easily. Okay, so that's what I want to see. That was the thought that I was waiting for it to come in. Okay, so now we have 3 cards. We have 2 left. So now when I'm doing these line of 5s, the 4th card is usually the guidance card or an action step that the cards are encouraging us to take. And here's my position on this as a reader, right? The cards don't run your life. They're not the boss of you, meaning that they just offer thoughts or guidance or suggestions for your consideration, because you get to decide whether you're going to take the action or not, right? I read from a place of empowerment, right? We're not giving the power to the cards to dictate what we're going to do, right? This is just a suggestion for your consideration. So with that in mind, the guidance is, okay, here we have 4 of spades, and now we have 2 cards from the suit of spades. The 4 of spades is a card that's known as the sick bed card. Okay, so this card could just represent taking a break, needing a rest, a time of healing, recuperation, and recovery. Yeah? So now, if you go with the idea that the suit of spades is about the mind, right, then the 4 can be a challenging number because it can represent, thinking a lot about something, again, because the 4 is a work number, right? Putting hard work into. So maybe you've been putting a lot of work into a certain way of thinking, right? And then this card would be saying, like, give your mind a break, It's a peace of mind card. So come to a place where you can give your mind a break, right? That you need a break, right? So now, if we go back to the very first card, 10 of clubs, and maybe you're working a lot, you're really, really busy, then the guidance here is real easy to see. It's about you taking a break. Would you be willing to give your mind and your body some rest, right? So this is about taking a break. As a follow-up to the 7 of Hearts, this is a great card to suggest, like, taking a break to meditate, right? It may be that if you are like me and you find yourself really busy, time challenged for meditation and I'm preaching to myself as I'm talking to all of you, then this card could suggest, be willing to create some time in your busy schedule for either rest. So this could be like taking a power nap. I was just telling somebody yesterday, we were talking about power naps, and I love my power naps. 20-minute power nap can sometimes change everything in terms of my energy, right? And me facing the work ahead, especially if there's a lot of work on my plate, right? But taking time to take a power nap, right? So that may be it. It could just be a matter of you actually may be sleep deprived and you need more sleep. It's another thing I could relate to, right? So it could just be, what are you willing to do with your time so that maybe you can carve out some more hours for sleep, right? And here's the thing, when it comes to time, it's a matter of we all have the same amount of time, but we make different choices with the time that we have in terms of what we invest time in and what we spend time on, right? Now going back to the other card, this is the mirror card, right? And mirror is like two cards in the same position, right? So this is the second card, this is the fourth card, so they're two cards away from the end cards, right? They're the second cards in, depending on the side of the line that you're looking at, right? So we call those mirroring cards, and so they're mirroring each other, right? So it's a nice message to follow up this one. What are you willing to cut out, maybe so that you can have more sleep time, more rest time, right? More me time, maybe even. Doesn't matter what you do at the time, but maybe saying, I just need more me time, right? And it could also be like if you're experiencing challenges in a relationship, it could just be like you take a pause, right? You take a step back, right? And that may be what you need to do to improve the situation, right? I need to take a step back, or I just need a timeout, right? Give yourself permission to take some time, right? Before you decide, maybe even, right? So there's that. Now, the other thing here, I was going with the idea like with the mind, the 4 is a number of limitation and restriction, right? So it could just be saying, are you mentally putting yourself in a box, right? Because the symbol for the 4 is a box or a square, right? So are you symbolically or mentally putting yourself into some kind of box? Meaning, like, and this card would suggest, like, in order to create a solution, right? If the problem is coming in and you want to feel better about it, you want it to improve, then the guidance here might be willing to think outside the box, right? Or don't think of ways or solutions that kind of put you in a box, that kind of keep you stuck and limited and restricted, yeah? So that's what I would say about the 4 of Spades in terms of its guidance and advice. And so now the last card, we're coming to the end. So the last card would be like the outcome, right? And when I'm reading, I am a big believer in that there is no outcome in a card reading that is definitive. Like, and so it's like fated to happen. It's written in stone. It's not my way or my view of reading that. It's saying, like, if you stay on the track that you're on, this would be the most likely outcome, or even following the guidance or advice card, then it would be like, if you consider taking the advice, this might be the outcome. And I say might be, because you are empowered with the idea of free will and free choice, right? So you could choose to do something differently, which would also alter the outcome. But here's the outcome right now. I showed this card with my other deck, so here we have it again. So this is the red joker. So there are 2 jokers in the playing card deck. I call one the red joker, and the other one is the black joker. The red joker is superimposed over a red background, and then the black joker would be similar, but superimposed over a black background. Okay, so now if you are tarot fluent, then this card is akin to the Fool card, right? So this card usually represents the start of a new journey, a new experience, that kind of thing, right? So as the ending card, it could say, if we go through the process this week, going with the other cards, about doing our work, eliminating the dead wood, freeing ourselves up, so to speak, then it sets the stage for embarking on a new journey, right? If you go with the 7 of Hearts as the focus or the central issue, right? Then this card is about, and I'm saying with the spiritual implications I talked about with this card, then this card is a nice follow-up to that because it represents the embarking on a new spiritual journey, right? Taking the step forward in that aspect of your life. Now, ways that could be helpful with that, again, this is about paying attention to your dreams. So we have that message being repeated twice. And it could also be too, like if you are faced with a challenge or an obstacle or a block of some kind, six of spades, then you may have a dream that helps you with a solution, right? If you listen to my last two Oracle Outlook video readings, I'm a big proponent when it comes to dreams that we experience dreams to help us deal with the challenges of waking life, right? So if you have a particular issue or challenge, you could have a dream that serves as guidance as to how to move through that particular challenge. So then the red joker in that case would be a reminder to pay attention to your dreams, because you may have a dream that helps you take the next step forward and out of the problem or the challenge. So there's that. Other aspects of the card for me could just be like if life feels really serious right now, then this card is saying find something that will lighten you up or lighten the mood, right? Light you up, lighten the mood. This card is saying like don't take it so seriously. Find something to laugh about. So, you know, this could be like I'm going to watch comedies, right? Because this is the fool or the jester here in the image, I should say, is the comedian, right? So it could just be a matter of finding something that will make you laugh or finding something in the situation itself to laugh about, right? You know, sometimes for me, when I'm going through a challenge, I try to look for the humor in it, right? And then have a laugh about it. Because sometimes I say, if I don't laugh about it, I'm going to cry. And I don't want to cry, right? So, and that would also be what you can do to help yourself feel better. Remember, I said the Seven of Hearts is about feeling better, yeah? So it could just be a matter of what can you do to find the humor in the situation. Now, and I'm saying that with the understanding that I know not every situation is humorous, right? But for the most part, you know, if you can find the humor in it, find the humor in it and get yourself to the point where you laugh about it. Now, it could be one of those situations where it presents itself as something really serious, and then, you know, we get to the other side and we say, oh, you know, I can laugh about it now, right? The outcome. I can laugh about it now, but I couldn't in the moment. This could be one of those situations where, you know, on the other side of it, you know, you'll find the humor in it and you'll be able to laugh about it in the end, right? So there's that. I'm asking myself, is there something else I want to say? Yes, there is. Okay, when it comes to choices or decisions, this card can suggest being at a crossroads, right? So if that resonates with you as you move through the week, the crossroads really is a place where, and I'm not talking about the magical crossroads, I'm just talking about like the metaphorical, I'm at a crossroads in my life idea, right? Because a magical crossroads would be a different thing. But it could be like the idea of the crossroads represents the idea that there's more than one alternative option or solution, right? Crossroads means there's more than one way to go, right? Metaphorically, right? And isn't that a nice follow-up to what I said about the Four of Spades and thinking outside the box, right? It could just be a matter of, are you willing to expand your mind to see more options and alternatives and solutions? And on that note, I'm going to wrap up this week's Oracle Outlook reading. So if you hung out and got with me or stayed with me this far in the reading, I want to thank you for giving me the gift of your time. And as I wrap up, I'm hoping that you have a wonderful week, and I will be holding space for all of us for our next video reading. So join me again in this space for the next video reading. And until then, have a great week. As I've already said, take care and be well. James Mitchell, signing out.